Coach, Jakari had kind of struggled to start the season. Just how do you keep his confidence going, and for him to have a night like tonight where he gets 12 points on 8 shots?
Yeah, it's hard because like he gets those points because he gets those minutes, and in those games where you don't get those minutes, I always try to tell them and people that comment on things of that nature is that it's really hard to be consistent when you get inconsistent minutes. And so like if you play 8 minutes one night, then you play 12, then you play 15, and it just mixes up. Instead of, you play 25 to 30. If you're inconsistent and you play 25 to 30, like that's on you. But it's not always on the player because some things can be circumstantial when you sub in, like who you're with, what's going on. There's just a lot of variables, right? And so when you're that 8th, 9th man right now in the rotation, like it's hard. It's hard. So like you see what he can do and he can play, and that's what he has to do is just stay positive and keep plugging. And he shot so well in the summer. He shot so well in the fall. He shot well in the 2 scrimmages, the 2 exhibitions, and then he just hasn't. And it's very similar to last year at this time. And then because after January 1st, he shot around 40%. From 3. And it's not all just about that, right? There's other things that go into it. So, but he's good, man. He's resilient. He works. He always comes up and watches film. He's always trying, maybe a little bit too conscientious at times, and instead of just like hooping and playing and doing your job and going out there. But he's a big part of our team, and it's good to see him do well.
As somebody who embraces teams being able to learn from things going sideways on them, is there any positive to be taken in them seeing in the first 10 minutes, here's what happens when we turn the ball over?
Right. At halftime, I think it was like 58% from the field, like 50% from 3, and 100% from the free throw line. But 9 turnovers led to 15 points for them. And we're fortunate it was only at 15. But it's like, look at those percentages. And sure, you're up by a big number, but it's the quality of play. And, you have 8 turnovers, in the first 8-9 minutes of the game. And it's just, it's just casual play. So, I think you always have to grab kind of those pockets when you play at a really, really high level like we did against Texas Tech, and then you play at a lower level like, you have to know the why. And a lot of times it's the little things, it's the details. And tonight it was us not taking care of the basketball. We were just fortunate with 8 turnovers after 8 minutes that they didn't have a rebound. So the possession war wasn't, totally lost there because we were getting every rebound.
Matt, it seems like your defense gets better throughout the game and kind of struggles a little early. Is there anything to that they need to kind of like settle in?
Yeah, just concentration more than anything. It's like, everybody wants to win sometimes as a player subconsciously. It's how you're going to win that you want to like flip, when in reality, like just take what the game gives you. But I just thought it was just a lack of concentration and on some defensive lapses, and we got to do a better job of just communicating and being detailed.
How was Daniel able to turn last year into a positive for an unfortunate circumstance, but he gets to watch and learn, and then he goes into USA basketball and then comes in here kind of a different product than what you had a year ago?
Yeah. Just kind of a testament to him, because being able to play again in, high-level basketball in June in FIBA basketball after he broke his leg, it was a pretty quick turnaround. So, like, at first, you don't know if he's going to be able to do it, and then he was able to do it, and I think that gave him some confidence to be able to go out there. I think everyone has a little bit of a grace period, whether that's a week, 2 weeks, a month, where they're not, quite sure of themselves when you have a major injury like that. So, just being positive with him more than anything, and just, I think you can see tonight, like he made some physical plays. And things get easy for him when he can catch lobs and he can move freely. But when guys are being really physical with him, he's still got to be able to make those plays. And I thought tonight he made a couple of really huge physical plays.
I think you guys had turned over 9 times before Fletcher had even taken a shot in this game. He ends up 15 points on 4 of 4. Just is his efficiency when things go wrong, can that be sometimes one of the elements that pulls you guys out of those issues?
Yeah, when you play and you play 23 minutes and you don't turn the ball over and you got 5 rebounds. And so, like, you're doing some other things there. And, if we don't have those turnovers, you'd like to think that he's getting a couple opportunities to pull the trigger. But just a great shooter, very intelligent player, and you just got to wait for your spots and kind of get your spots sometimes. But I think our carelessness kind of stopped him from having some more opportunities there early in the game. But no, he's been great, to say the least.
28 block shots for your team already through 7 games, 59 all last season. Are you seeing the sort of transformation in your team that should lead to? You think that kind of having that element again?
Yeah, it just seemed like last year we would work so hard, and sometimes we would do a good job and stop them, but then we couldn't get a rebound. It ended up being, deflating to our team. Like, we're getting you to miss, but yet we're not getting the basketball. And then they would go and we would foul or they would score, and it just got really hard for us from an offensive standpoint. We were a good offensive team, and at times we schemed, and it really helped us. And then at times we schemed and it was kind of counterproductive. And that's kind of part of basketball. When you're shorthanded in an area, you feel as a coach like you got to do something. And so the things that we went to at times really helped us. But then other times when we're rotating, we weren't in great rebound balance. So this year we've tried to stay out of more rotations, even though we doubled a lot in the last game. We felt we had to because of JT Toppin, and we just got to keep gauging what's best for us. But the ability to just be able to protect the rim, and even though they're not always blocks, but just to have a presence like Daniel and Oscar down there, that's really helped us.
I don't want to misquote you on this, but I think you said earlier this season you thought Daniel was a guy who sometimes plays in games better than he practices. Just, is that something because of the front court you have, because he's going up against Oscar or Trey? Is there something you just see in a game that's different to him?
Yeah, no, I believe that. It's not that he's been much better this year in practice, but like preseason last year, he had struggles, and then we got to that first game and got to an exhibition, and he played really well. And it shouldn't mask anything, right? You should say yeah, it's not every practice, but he, once a week, twice a week, that's what we see, and it just wasn't. And so I've seen him compete at a high level in USA basketball against great players. Now they're his age, right? In college, not everybody's the same age. And so that piece of it just kind of growing for him, I think. In practice, I think it's harder because we don't call as many fouls and we allow more physical contact. And sometimes that can create bad habits. So as a coach, you got to try to clean that up. But I think practice is going to be more suited for somebody like Oscar than the game is, even though Oscar's been very productive. I just think in contrast, right? And so then when he gets to the game, they should be calling fouls, which they do. And I think that really helps him in his mobility and his movement.
Start Big Ten play on Tuesday. Road openers and games against Rutgers, I guess, both haven't necessarily gone your guys' way the last few years. Just how important is a strong start Tuesday, maybe especially considering some of the other teams that we've seen coming along the Big Ten here?
Right. Well, it's going to be a tough game. They're a well-coached team. They're a physical team. They've played better here. They had a tough loss, I think, against Tennessee, but in the last couple games here, they have played much better and competed. They have shot the ball better. And so I think that's anytime you go on the road, especially to start like a season, you got to expect their best. And that's what we have to expect. Expect their best and be ready to go, because we know it's going to be a big-time environment.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.